It's a new day, from Diego to the Bay, round the world back to LA. It's a new day with the major. You're listening to New Day Talk Radio with your host, Lynette Jones, the Major. We bring you life in the military, community, and breaking news, all right here on New Day Talk Radio. It's a new day, from Diego to the Bay, round the world back to LA. It's a new day with the Major.
Hey, what's up? This is the Major. This is your host, Lynette Jones. I hope everybody had a great week. Today I'm excited because we have on via Skype we have Miss Pamela Ennis. Pamela Ennis is an author. She's the author of a book called You Are What You Think. I know we heard that you are what you eat, but in her case, you are what you think. So I'm excited to have her in the studio, and and everybody knows my style. I really don't introduce my guests because I really think I would do them no justice. So I have my guests to introduce themselves. So I want to say welcome to the show, Pamela, and thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Lynette, for having me. I chuckled when I heard you say that. We always hear people say you are what you eat, but rarely
you are what you think.
You are what you think.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot. And those two things go together.
Right.
They
do. You're right. I said they do. So why don't you tell the listeners and the viewers who is Pamela Ennis?
I am a author, Pam Ennis. I am a writer. I am a teacher. And I'm a talk show host. And my background basically started, I've always had an interest in just the human behavior and the human experience and why do we act the way that we act? Why do we get into the situations that we get into? And I started that research many, many years ago in college. I majored in psychology as a second major. I majored in psychology, and that was like the beginning of it. And then I studied the different world religions to try and find a spiritual reason for maybe the human condition and why why we just continue to hurt each other, especially from a negative perspective. Mm-hmm. So my journey started by trying to understand why the negative behaviors and why the competitive negative behaviors.
So over the years. Yeah. So you just kind of got into my segue about your title. You are what you think. So you said why? Because people are so negative towards each other. So I guess that was all the inspiration for the title. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Well, two things. That's the inspiration for the title. You are what you think, because people are so negative toward each other. And at the same time, that is the whole message. That's the message that I want to get out, is to let people know that they are responsible and they can do something about a lot of the negative behaviors by changing the way that they think.
Right. That is so true. So you are what you think. So I must apologize to you first because I did not get the opportunity to actually read your book, but I'm sure I'm going to learn something, during this interview. So that's exciting. So it's kind of cool, though. Even though I don't read your book, I get to talk to you.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that the principles that are in this book, they're so universal that it's almost like when you hear it, you're not going to learn a lot of things that you haven't heard before.
It's almost like reinforcement.
It's like reinforcement. And what the book does, it condenses the information and it puts it in 7 steps and also has guidelines for you to follow. And I also give you some background information as to why or how some of these things work. So it's like a process of from step 1 to clarity. That's the first chapter in the book, is about having clarity. And the book is You Are What You Think, 7 Principles to Creating a Life That You've Always Wanted. So because I'm coming from the place of ridding yourself of the negative experiences, then the opposite of that is creating a life that you want, creating a life that makes you happy, having a relationship that makes you happy, having the career, or having the peace of mind, or having the health, or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Each chapter gets you closer and closer to that with some specific guidelines. Right. And again, that starts with clarity around what it is that you want, changing your thinking and becoming aware.
Right. Now, I have for the viewers, I have a copy of your book. It's on the screen. It's You Are What You Think. So one interesting thing that we spoke about briefly prior to this interview was that you said some people are just allowing life to happen. And you say you actually refer to them as sleepwalking. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. So most people are not aware that they have control over a lot of things that are occurring in their lives. And again, we're talking about the more so the negative things, because regardless to whether you're having a negative experience or a positive experience, your thought life plays a role in how those things are manifesting. But the average person, they either believe that, oh, life is just dealing me a bad hand. I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. I'm not the right nationality. I'm not the right color. I don't speak well enough. I don't have a good enough education. They have, through not necessarily any fault of their own. That's the way society has conditioned people to think. And society has led people to believe that their possibilities are limited based on their background. And because of that, I say sleepwalking, because you have no clue, meaning that what that translates to is that you have no clue the power that you have within you if you would just change your view of yourself. If you would just say to yourself, there are infinite possibilities out there. I am a co-creator with the creator of the universe. Everything that whether depending on your spiritual background, it does not matter. If you're coming from Christianity, if you're coming from Buddhism or an Eastern religion, or it really does not matter. I think we all could agree that there's a higher power, that there's a power that is in the universe that is bigger than all of us. And changing your thinking and understanding that you can become a co-creator, you can tap into that. And by tapping into that higher power, you remove those limited beliefs about what you are capable of doing and what you're not capable of doing. And then I call that the wake-up call. So now you're no longer sleepwalking. Now you are aware, and from day to day, you will control your thoughts. You will control your words, because you can't even, I know we've all heard the saying, watch what you say, and it's very popular now to hear your words can manifest into a reality, but you can't really even change your words or change your language or change how you speak about yourself unless you are aware that it makes a difference.
Isn't that I would say that's part of your thought process, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's almost like we need to be reprogrammed, or our thought life needs to be changed or re-educated from how we have been taught to think, coming up from children. Our first exposure to how it is we're supposed to respond to life, of course, comes from our parents, and depending on where or how you grew up, a lot of us, we had no control of how our parents chose to raise us. And in many cases, they did the best that they could based on the knowledge or information that they had. And then from our parents, we go into the school system. So the school system is very restricted and very limited on what you're allowed to think about yourself. You know, you have to go, you have 12 years of English and reading and writing and mathematics, and you have to get your diploma, and then you have to go to college. And then when you do those things, you need to get a job, and then the job is going to pay you this much money, and then you can buy a house. But if you don't do anything, what they're doing is, by telling you that, although there's nothing wrong with those things, but the teaching is that if you miss any of those steps, then you are not capable of being the best version of yourself. If you don't go to a certain school, or even if you don't finish high school,
right,
the system tells you that something is wrong with you, and that is not true.
Right, but I kind of, don't you equivalent that to maybe old thinking, like, old fashioned thinking, like back, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It is. I mean, it is old fashioned thinking, but it's what's really profound is that there's a scripture in the Christian Bible that says, "My people perish for the lack of knowledge."
Right.
So what I always say is, it doesn't really matter as to why or how the thinking pattern formed, whether it formed from a parent who was old-fashioned, didn't know any better, whether it formed from the society and for baby boomers, if we were born in the 60s or the 70s, whether it formed from, the neighborhood you grew up in, it really doesn't matter. What this book is all about is first educating you, letting you know that you can change. It can all be changed. It can be changed in a matter of just once information. I was having a conversation with someone today about the power of knowledge. Once you come into a new understanding, once you come into knowledge that tells you that you no longer have to be that person that you were yesterday, or maybe some of those limiting beliefs that you had no longer exist, your life can change overnight. I mean, it can literally change overnight. And this is what makes this book, it's 80 pages, but it's power-packed. Because if you get the principles and you start applying the principles to your life, you will see changes. You can see changes in 30 days that you have not seen in 10 years of your life.
Right. So
the reason is because you are changing how you think. Therefore, those limited beliefs are being lifted, and now you see all these infinite possibilities.
Right. So let me ask you this, Pam. What makes your book so different? I mean, you have a lot of self-help books out there. You have a lot of books that they tell you, discovering the secret, the power of who you are as an individual. Okay. So you are what you think. What makes your book so different than the things that are already out there?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I'm going to start with the secret. The secret is kind of what started the new age version of create the life you want. You can manifest whatever you want. That book by Rhonda Byrne, and they did a good job of reintroducing, and I'll tell you why I say reintroducing. They did a good job of reintroducing those principles into today's society. And the term that they use, the secret or manifestation, all those terms are more new age terms. And when I say new age, I just mean new terms, like in the last 20 or 50 years. But the principle behind the terms are age old. The principle behind you are what you think, or what you think about, or the words that you speak, how you're a co-creator, have been in existence since the beginning of time. And the information, again, information is very, 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 very powerful. And there are some very powerful people in this world who do not want the masses to understand the power that they have within their mind. There are people in this world who want us to remain without the knowledge, without the information. They want the economic diversity to remain. They want the neighborhoods, that are disadvantaged to stay the same. They don't want those people to know that they would have more power if they only understood how the mind works and how they can be a co-creator.
Okay,
so
Pam, I gotta interject here because I'm thinking, and I don't want to be insulting in any way, but would you say that, to me, it sounds like a slave mentality when you say there's people out there who don't want people because you know how, well, we weren't there, but you have that mentality that I only want you to know so much because if you know any more, you might be dangerous.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, and that's a whole nother show. Okay. I mean, that's a whole nother show.
Because but I'm saying, but what you're saying, it seemed like to me, it's like, wow, I've heard that analogy before as far as it's people out there, and we usually know who those people are and where it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a slave mentality, and it is it still exists. It just exists under another umbrella.
Gotcha.
And again, like I said, that's a whole other show because someone would say, what do you mean there's slavery still exists? Slavery has been over, blah, blah, blah.
Well, we know slavery in different types, like human trafficking. We got that. So you're right. That concept is still in the world, but it's really interesting how you depict it on this show right now and how you're talking about it as how it relates to mankind today. I just thought it was interesting because it sounds very familiar because I know we all have heard it before.
Yeah, most definitely. So just to answer your question in a nutshell, what makes this book different is that I have condensed all of this information, all of this, the tidbits of information that they're putting out there around The Secret. It's very limited what they put in the book around The Secret. That is the law of attraction is real, but there are many laws of the universe. There are many laws that play a role into how our lives play out. And the law of attraction is just one of them. So what I have done in this book is taken all of this information, in addition to made it palatable for the different spiritual backgrounds, letting you know that it has absolutely nothing to do with religion, doesn't matter what your religion is, and put it in a way that everybody can understand it. The most common person can understand it. They could see, wow, this does make sense. And what I say in the book and what I say to everyone is, try it. Just try it. Just take 30 days and try it. And you'll see for yourself how your life will change. So there's no hidden agenda because I want to see people grow and move past these limitations that they have been under for years, or the slave mentality, I should say.
So you're saying that, I mean, I just want to make sure, you're saying that a person is going to be changed behind 75 pages.
Oh, most definitely. Okay. I'm saying that I am so confident in these principles here. And now let me tell you, let me say something that I always say. Again, I did not make up anything that's in this book. Mm-hmm. The words in this book, the information in this book, it's not like it came from me. I am the writer, I am the author. Mm-hmm. But the principles in the book have been in existence since the beginning of the time. These are universal principles that they're in every ancient spiritual text. These same principles are in the Christian Bible. These same principles are in the Muslim Quran. These same principles are in the Buddhist temples. These same principles are in the Sanskrit in India. These are not new. I have just made them palatable and made them easy to understand. So not only in 80 pages, but just your first chapter, once you understand clarity, once you get clarity about who you are and what it is that you want in your life, that'll be life-changing within itself.
Right. Okay. So once again, I have your the cover of your book on the screen, but I want to read something. I want to read an excerpt or a quote from your book. I thought it was pretty good. It says, inside the book, it says, "You have within your possession right now, today, a power that goes beyond your human intellect A power once unlocked can change your life forever. The intent of you are what you think. 7 principles to creating the life you've always wanted is to show you how to discover the power within. So if you're saying it's nothing new, it's things that we have with us now, but it's things that you have defined and made clear to people so that they can have a better understanding.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Yeah, that's exactly it. It is nothing new. Again, I'm trying not to be too religious here, but that's another ancient scripture. Is nothing new under the sun. I believe that's what King Solomon said in the book of Proverbs. Oh, Ecclesiastes. All right, then. All right. You know your word. Okay. There is nothing new under the sun. So I like what you said, is that there's nothing in this book that's new. It's that I have been able to condense it. I have been able to explain it. I have been able to break it down so you can understand it. And the main thing that you said that I really like is the power, the information is going to resonate with you because the power is within you. I'm not giving you the power. The book is not giving you the power. Mm-hmm. The power already resides in you.
Right.
The book is going to ignite and wake up the power that's already there.
Absolutely. So, Pam, let me ask you, our world is huge, and I'm sure that everybody or anybody or anyone can pick up your book and read it, but who is your target market? Who when you wrote this book and you have it within your mind, they always say you have a niche market. So
yeah.
who are your ideal targets for this particular book?
That's a great question. Because I struggled, let me start by saying, I came from a very traditional, strict Christian upbringing. I grew up in a Pentecostal church where everything was by the book. I had to go to church 2 or 3 times a week, and it wasn't an option. And as I, got older and I went off to school away from home, and this is when I started to have all these questions about life and about it has to be more to it than that, and that I believe that religion is organized religion, I should say, is kind of keeping the masses blind or not giving you all the information, and there's just more to it. My intent was to take the book and free people, and I keep going back to this slavery thing, even though that was not my intent for this. It was not my intent, but we just went there. Mm-hmm. But it's like free the minds, first of all, of organized religion. People who are stuck in organized religion, free your mind so that you can understand that the kingdom is within. What are the real meanings of those sayings and those scriptures that people are quoting? They're not really making them real. And how you can have your life abundantly right now. You're not waiting until the afterlife. You can have life and have life abundantly right now.
Right.
So that was my initial audience. Mm-hmm. As I've evolved past that, that's still a part of it. But also, I work with a lot of women and I work with a lot of young people who struggle in emotional, traumatic situations that they just can't seem to get past, and it keeps them in bondage. It keeps them from being their best self, whether they're trying to go somewhere in their career, whether they're trying to get out of bad relationships. And so now my audience has expanded, and like I said, I have a group of young people that I do this call with once a week, and then I have this women's group that I work with as well. And in both of those cases, it's still trying to free the minds of people to let them know that you can have a better life. And the ultimate goal is to try and reach the masses that are in more impoverished neighborhoods, more impoverished mindsets, who has been told or who believes from generation to generation that they have to be in the system. it's like, to me, just the idea of giving someone this knowledge where they can break a generational cycle of being a part of the system is like the ultimate. So my audience has evolved over the years.
Right. That sounds good. So, excuse me. I wanted to tell you also, I wanted to ask you, so in your book, it talks about 7 principles. Can we, just for the sake of time, we may not be able to hit all 7, but can we actually talk about a few of those principles?
Sure. So the book is broken into 7 different principles. And principle number 1 is around clarity. And when I say clarity, that means know thyself. First of all, you have to know who you are, and before you can even start to think about, creating this life that you want, or creating this perfect job, or finding this perfect mate, or having peace in your relationships, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. You have to be clear on who you are and what it is that you really want. So the first one is clarity. And then once we move past that, I call that chapter Make Up Your Mind. So it's like, make up your mind, be consistent about what it is, because we have a tendency to flip-flop because a lot of times people don't know what they want, because we're overly exposed to everything, with the media, with advertising. And if you don't spend any private time, which in the book I give you tools for meditating, for writing down some of your goals. All of those are tools that will help you get closer to identifying what it is that you really want and making up your mind about it. And then in chapter 2, we talk about having the right thoughts. So now that you've made up your mind, for example, let's just say, for example, that you're looking for a career change or a new job, and you did your work and you've written down your what your goals are, and this is it. When I say have clarity about what you want, what type of job would make you happy? What type of job would make you feel fulfilled? What type of job? It has to meet several things. You can't just go after money. You just can't say, I just want to make a lot of money. I always tell people following your passion means that's something you would do even if you didn't have a lot of money. So you've gotten that down. So now to keep that vibration, to keep that energy flowing, to bring that manifestation into reality, you have to be thinking the right thoughts about that, which is chapter 2, right thoughts. Right thoughts mean, okay, I know that I'm seeking, this new position. So that means as you're talking to friends and you're talking about it, you're talking on a positive note. You're saying, hey, I'm going out and I'm doing this interview and I know that the right position is going to come my way. You're not saying, oh, I've been out of work for 6 months. Oh, the economy is so bad. Oh, with Donald Trump in office, I'll never find a job. And that's huge, because a lot of people are falling prey to that right now. A lot of people are falling prey to
with Donald Trump, you might find a job, but you might not have it long. Just joking, just kidding.
Okay. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. Just when you're on that path of manifesting, though, when you've written your goals and you're saying, I'm gonna make this happen, you remove any negative conversation or anything about Donald Trump. Just put Donald Trump out your mind, because right now you're thinking about the power of the co-creator. You're thinking about the person, the spirit man or the spiritual entity that created. I call it the Genesis mindset. And the reason I call it the Genesis mindset, because in Genesis, it says, in the beginning, God created. In the beginning, God created. And when I tell people just think about that. Every time you think about co-creating, go to Genesis and say, in the beginning, God created. If you say that, Donald Trump means nothing. If you say that, the economy, the society, the neighborhood, my parents, how I grew up, the abusive ex-boyfriend, whatever, if you say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So this same God that created the heavens and the earth is the same entity that you're going to tap into to ultimately create this job that you're trying to make happen. So all of a sudden, all those negative things that's in the media doesn't have any control over you. Another principle is release and let go. Once you have gotten your identity in check, you know who you are, you know what you want, you're speaking it, you're not thinking about all the negative stuff. You got to let it go and believe that it's going to happen. Don't hold on to anything that happened prior to then.
So, Pam, let's put a dime in the meter right there. Just a quick dime. If I said a quarter, it'd be longer, but we're focused on a dime. So when you say let go, I think that's really important, because a lot of people have a hard time letting go. And I see that every day in my life. I mean, I'm dealing with some things with some soldiers now, and it's like they'll bring it up, and you want to say, let it go, just let it go. And I think that most people have a hard time letting things go. So in your book, where is your focus with that when it comes to just really letting go and not bringing it up anymore?
Yeah, you're so right on that, Lynette. That is on the talk show that I do. We had a topic yesterday on unforgiveness and how hard it is for people to forgive. They say they're forgiving, but they can't let it go. They keep talking about it. And we concluded that unforgiveness, or letting it go, is one of the hardest challenges I think that people really, really have. But in the book, and what I teach in the workshops and what I teach in the practices, well, first, let's talk for a second why it's so hard. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why it's so hard to let go when we've been offended or traumatized, it's a deep emotional wound. Mm-hmm. It's a very deep emotional wound. And we have to clear, and it's a negative emotion, and negative emotions are very powerful. And we have to clear those negative emotions. We have to find things and find affirmations to replace that. And one of the exercises in the Release and Let Go chapter is around whatever that trauma is. Let's say it was abusive relationship. There's some exercises around finding and affirming that you are worthy, that you are beautiful, that you are whole, that you are happy, taking you back to using your imagination a lot. The imagination is a very powerful, powerful tool, which again is why sometimes it's so difficult for people to let go, because especially with, I'm sure you deal with people with post-traumatic stress syndrome in the military, because you guys experience, you see so much, you experience so much. It's like, how do you get all those images out of your mind? Right. How do you do that? So there's some exercises that you replace. It's called replacing the negative imagery, because it all happens in the mind. And those images is what drives the emotion. And replacing those things and going into that quiet time and prayer and affirmations, not the prayer that they're all different. There are several different modalities of prayer. Right. So when I say prayer, I'm not talking about.
I want to go back to what you said about the imagery and everything. Would you agree that it's an ability that some people have and some people don't have, and they may never have? Because I'm telling you, I've been deployed 4 times. And there's some things in my mind that I've seen, but I just wipe them free. I don't think about them. I don't see them anymore. You have to really, really push me really hard to remember certain things. So would you agree or disagree that some people have that ability and others don't, and others have to really struggle to find that place?
I would have to agree with that. As much as I spent years studying and not wanting that to be true, mm-hmm. I didn't want that to be true. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to be true that, now, I'm not saying that everyone does not have the ability. Everyone does have the ability. We all have the same God gift within us. However, there are some people that it's easier for them to use their imagination. And again, we're on a whole nother show now, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a whole nother book about the power of imagination. And there's some people who have the ability to use their imagination to totally create a whole new world for themselves and wipe out any trauma that's ever experienced. Like you're saying, you were in the military and you could just wipe some of this stuff out. There are other people that I work with people, things much simpler than what you're talking about. I'm just trying to get them to imagine the car that they want. And they can't even envision a vehicle in their mind.
Right.
It's hard for them. They're just not, that's just not who they are.
Right.
But for that person, there are other tools. You have to use, we have to use other methods to help them release and let go. That's not always the method.
Do you discuss some of those methods in your book?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
What I do, I discuss the methods in meditation, and I call it self-talk, where you talk. Yes, you do talk to yourself and affirming out loud.
That's the only honest conversation I have all day.
That's it. That's an honest conversation. You don't have anybody to talk back. So that's one of those tools that can help. But that's very interesting what you're saying, especially I think the people that have been in the military, that is such a good research for this type of work. I work with a lot of people. I work with an organization that works with people in addiction situations, like whether it's addiction to, and that gets a little tricky because with the addiction to drugs and alcohol, there's a chemical dependency happening with them. And then there are people who are addicted to like pornography or addicted to some of the things that don't necessarily have a external drug, but there's still some type of chemicals that are released in the brain. And using these same tools that we're talking about with imagery, just some very interesting studies. So I know working with people from the military, that's got to be an interesting process.
Right. I think everybody has a motivational point when it comes to, like you said, changing your thoughts and who you are. Because think about, I saw a commercial once, and a guy was trying to stop smoking, and he said the moment his wife brought the baby in the house, that was it for him.
Exactly. One of the guys who is a part of another group that I've worked with, he said that he got fired from his job. I mean, I shouldn't say job. This guy, had 6-figure income. He was at the top of the chain as an executive leader, etc. And he got fired from his job, and he had been watching porn at work and he was just just too much. Yeah. Pretty much too much. But years that went by where he had run-ins, whether it was with a girlfriend who caught him, just a whole lot of things that happened, but nothing had been serious enough to make him look at himself. But he was a person that his job meant everything to him. His job was his identity. And when that happened, he said overnight he stopped that behavior. So you make a very good point about it becomes a necessity. So so it is true that there are some people that don't change. And it doesn't mean that what you're teaching them, the work that we're trying to do, it doesn't mean that the work is not real. It doesn't mean that the work does not work. Right. It means that you have to bring something to the table as well.
Right. That's true. I want to tell you a story. And based on your book, it tell me, where this may fit. So It's a quick story. So somebody told me I have to, keep the names anonymous because I don't want anybody to go to jail over a small amount of money. But a good friend of mine, she told me that she found a wallet, and in the wallet was ID, and it was $20. She said she took the wallet, she took the ID out of the wallet, and she threw it away, discarded, didn't care. And so she actually liked the wallet, so she kept the wallet, and of course she kept the $20. 2 years later, she was at a payphone, and as she was on this payphone, she was talking to somebody, and she set the wallet down and left the wallet. And then she said, "Oh my God, I forgot my wallet." She went back, and ironically enough, she lost $20 in the same wallet that she took from somebody else.
Oh, wow.
So she had the wallet. She left the wallet. She came back to get the wallet, and she said, and then she took her mind back. So you talk about things coming full circle. And I was reading an excerpt in your book too about biblical principles. Like you said, it's not a book, but it's different things. No, but
I talk about that. See, that's
right.
Awareness.
Right. So it came all the way around full circle. But she said it took her that experience. God is always going to reveal things to you and show you certain things. And she said, Lynette, I didn't even care about the lady's wallet, and whoever did it to me, they didn't care about my ID. Right. She said, I had to get all my ID and stuff again. And she said, I'm sure the lady wallet who I took, she had to do the same thing. And she lost the same amount of money because what she did came back full circle to her.
It comes back full circle.
Yeah.
It comes back full
circle.
So
where would that fit in your book, would you say?
I would say that fits in the beginning where you are having right thoughts and you're releasing and you're letting go. Because one of the things in the chapter on releasing and letting go is you need to identify anything that you feel guilty about, any person that you need to forgive. What have you done, including forgiving yourself?
Oh my God, you just was reading my mind. No fair. You can't read my mind. You can't do that. That exactly what you hit the nail on the head. I was getting ready to say she had to forgive herself. But it took that event to come full circle for her to realize that, wow, I did it. I'm so sorry. And then check this out. Part 2 half of the story. Yesterday, she was on the bus and she saw a wallet on the bus. And she didn't say anything, but she saw a lady go sit next to the wallet. And when the lady sat next to the wallet, the lady picked up the wallet. Now, an 80-year-old lady, she was like a senior citizen. She left the wallet on the bus. And then she said, I saw it, and she saw the lady pick it up. The girl was about 17 or 18. So she got off the bus, and she said, excuse me, I saw you pick up that wallet, and I think you should give it back because that doesn't belong to you. And the girl said, no, I didn't. I didn't take anything. She said, I saw you. But the bus driver heard the conversation, but he didn't want to get involved. So he just didn't say anything. But I'm thinking that whole experience where she said how she stole that wallet a couple of years that it came right back to her, and now she actually saw it and did something about it.
So here's what that means. I love that story. I love that story. Actually, I want to do a reality show with those type of things in it at some point, down the road. But I love that story because here's what happened. That was her redeeming moment because how it works is he had an opportunity because that was the universe seeing what are you going to do now? Are you really transformed? I'm going to put right back in this situation. It doesn't matter if the girl admitted it or not. The fact that she went to the girl and she righted her wrong.
Yes.
So she was released. She was released from that whole experience when she watched that whole thing transpire, and then she walked up to the girl and she said, hey, you took something that wasn't yours. It's almost like that biblical scripture where, oh, that's so powerful. I mean, listen, that's so powerful. You know the scripture where with King David and the prophet came to him when David took Bathsheba that wasn't his, took the woman and the prophet came and said,
told him a story. Right.
That's
told him the story and said, one little lamb, this guy, one little lamb, and this other guy had everything. And he said, oh, this man should be killed. That man is you, David.
Yes, it's you. It's you. So that's what that whole full circle thing came to. And it's like, okay, I showed you yourself. And there's so many lessons. There's another good lesson in that situation on judgment, which I talk about in chapter 2, is that, once you start to really look at yourself and look at who you are, you'll stop judging people as much as you do. Because we are so far from where we need to be that it's not even funny.
If you just take a list of all the bad things you did in your life, you won't have any room to judge anybody.
Exactly. So when she saw the young girl, she can't, if she hadn't experienced that herself, she probably could have said, oh, look at her, she's a thief, she's stealing, that's a shame, she stole from that 80. But you can't say nothing but ask her to give it back. But you were that person. You did the exact same thing.
That's right. And that's where you say the execution of judgment goes away. Now you got to execute that because it's no longer valid.
Right.
That's right.
And that is a powerful redeeming practice to become aware that you can get redemption without going to the priest and asking for it. Now the reason awareness is so important is because, and the reason this little book is so important, because it teaches you how to do all these things yourself. So think about the people that you've hurt. Think about the things that you've done you shouldn't have done. Write them down. Now here's what you're going to do. You're going to talk to yourself. You're going to say, self, I am so sorry. I forgive me for how I behave. Forgive me for what I said. Forgive me for what I did. Forgive me for how I treated my child when I was in my mess and I didn't know any better. Forgive me for what I stole. Forgive me for whatever the case may be. You're going to say that because by saying that, you are expediting your redemption. But when you don't go through these practices and these exercises, you're walking around with these blockages, is what I call it. And that's what I talked about on the show yesterday. Unforgiveness is a blockage to the manifestation of the things you're asking for. So if you have these things going on now, like your friend, if she had not went through that redeeming process, and it may have took her a minute, now it took her a while, she had to experience it herself. We want to get to a point in our evolution that we don't have to experience the same thing happen to us for us to get redeemed. We can get redeemed before then. But let's just say she was, seeking or trying to manifest something, and she was having a hard time, and in her mind, she's saying, I'm doing everything that this book told me to do. I'm doing everything that these manifestation people telling me to do. Why isn't that working? It could have been that one little thing. Well, you have not truly forgiven yourself. You need to get rid of the wallet. You can't hold on to something that was gotten from a negative experience. So she needed to get rid of the wallet, so she ended up losing it, just like somebody else lost it. But you want to get to the point where you don't have to have the experience for you to get what it is you need to do to become whole again, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. Pam, this has been some good information, and what I'm going to do one more time, I'm going to put the book, your book on the screen here, so that people can actually, if they want to buy your book, can you tell me like exactly where would they have to go? They have to go to Amazon, they go to your website. I have here, you have iconictelevision.com. Is that where they can buy the book, or just
so they can buy the book? So to purchase the book, you would go to, www.dr Pam, P-A-M-Ennis.com. So that's www.drpamennis.com, and you can buy the book there.
Okay.
Iconic Television, I am also a talk show host. I have a show called The Beat. The Beat stands for balance, energy, action, and ultimately transformation. And on that show, it's a success show where I teach these same principles on the show. And it runs on the Iconic Television Network. So you can go to www.iconictelevision.com.
It's on the screen right now, so people can see that name. I have it on the screen.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? This has been like a rich hour. I feel like before I talked to you, I was broke. But now I got a little money in my pocket, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. I mean,
that's cool. I like that.
And I must say, it's two people in the world that I respect. I respect people who are givers, and I respect people who care enough about humanity to write things of this kind of book, because you could have written about anything. But you chose to write about this. And like I said, I'm just putting this up again for my viewers. If you want to buy her book, and I'm definitely going to push your book too, because I know some people who can definitely benefit from this.
Okay, great. I appreciate that.
The website is there, and it's You Are What You Think. You are what you think. You are what you eat too, but you are what you think too.
You are what you think, right? And if you think right, you'll eat right.
Exactly. That's the truth. If you're a donut, then you're going to be a donut.
So, that's right.
Yeah. So, Pam, I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today. It was really enlightening. I learned a lot from, each of my guests, even if it's something, one thing is something, and, learning something. We learn every day. Learning something is better than knowing nothing.
That's right. Well, yeah. I appreciate it. This has been a powerful hour. I have also learned a lot. You're a very entertaining host. So thank you for having me.
I'm actually more entertaining than this, but you know, this is your hour, not mine, so I have to respect that. I want to.
So you held back a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah, I held back a lot. It's all good. No, but I really enjoyed, you know, like I said, your book, and actually, like I said, I pulled it up on Amazon myself and everything because I like to read different things. And you said 75 pages. It's a quick read.
That's right. That's right. It's a quick read.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And,
okay, thank you.
And hopefully we'll talk next time. Oh, and before we close out, I believe you have a book signing coming up on March 24th. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. So I have a book signing for those of you who are in the Houston area on March 24th at the Center Stage Art Gallery. It will be at 7 p.m. from 7 to 10 p.m. Come out. We're going to have a great time. We have entertainment. We have red carpet. And I am going to do a Q&A and talk about the book as well. So look forward to seeing you. Okay. Again, that is on March 24th at 7 p.m. at the Center Stage Art Gallery.
Sounds good. So I just ask that you stand by so we could chat a little bit after the show, and I'm just going to close out the show. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was, let me get over here. That was Dr. Pam Ennis. She doesn't like to be called doctor because she doesn't, but I figure she did all that work in school. Might as well, you know. If I was a doctor, they'd be calling me a doctor every day. And if somebody dare miss that title, you know, and not call me a doctor, then I would probably be really upset with them. But I thank you guys for tuning into the show. And then I'm going to put this book up one more time. It's You Are What You Think. You are what you think, and it was some there are very powerful principles in this book, and I encourage you, my viewers and my listeners, to go out and get this book. You are what you think, and I thank you so much for tuning into the show. This is The Major. Until next time, be good to yourself and be good to each other.